I want to introduce everyone to my hot rabbi. Her name is Rabbi Rebecca Keren Eisenstadt. Before she was my rabbi, she was one of my best friends.
I still am, right?
Yeah, but you're also my rabbi, so there's that, you know? We actually had our own podcast for a bit. We wrote a musical together called Rachel and Leah about sisters, where we became sisters and then had a falling out and didn't talk for how long was that?
At least 4 years.
No, longer. 7?
That's so painful.
Yeah, I think that was 7. We took a 7-year hiatus. 7 is a holy number in Judaism, so
right.
That made sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But too long.
It was too long. And we've made up for it. Recently, the rabbi taught me how to read from the Torah for the first time at the age of 37. She sat me down and taught me how to chant and read. And it was my Torah portion for my bat mitzvah that, never was when I was 12 because I just wasn't raised in an environment where that would be possible. But we made that right together, and it was an extremely fulfilling experience. Anyway, I've talked a lot. Rabbi Rebecca Keren, welcome.
Thank you, Daniella. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having my little dog here. He joins me at a lot of services, so sometimes I joke and call him a service dog. This is Scout. He'll most likely be completely quiet the entire time.
But maybe not.
Maybe not. He's a great friend of your families as well and your dogs. And he is like my child. So while I'm not a mom, I am a dog mom like you. And we bond on that.
And like Laura. I actually, when I saw Scout, I was like, oh, is Nathan here? And she's like, who's Nathan?
He is.
He is?
Yeah.
He's such a great dog.
He's 15, so I would definitely be like, 15. It's interesting because I thinking about it. If he was like a person, how I would be like ready to get him out of the house. It would be ready to go. So,
oh my gosh, I am so jealous that you guys can bring your dogs around because Bernardo would he just with the accidents and the he's on medication. I just want to be clear. I have tried. I have tried. He's on Prozac, nothing's going to help this guy, but doggy daycare.
I think when you hear a lot of prayer and you hear a lot of Torah, which is the 5 books of Moses, I think it can really change. I have to eat the microphone.
Yes, eat it. It's delicious.
Daniella, this is definitely your domain, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of it. I've definitely I've acted on stage with you. I've appeared in even film projects, but never the voiceover, which I love turning on the TV and being like, Daniella, is that you on the commercial? And texting you, and you're like, how did you even know?
I know, it's weird that you and my father are the two people who will be like, I just heard this commercial. Are you on Windex now? I'll be like, yeah. I was telling Laura that I just never mentioned that that's how I make money. And it's also I really enjoy it, but probably because no one knows except for you and my dad.
Oh, listen, if it's on and I hear it, I know it's you.
I know. And for all those 7 years that we weren't talking, you were saying that you would hear my voice on the Nook and you'd be like,
and Colgate. For
Colgate.
sure.
Oh yeah, Colgate was a long gig.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry I haunted you.
And it was a really national commercial, so I could not escape you.
You couldn't.
But by the way,
you watch that much TV?
I watch a lot of news, and I put it on in the background, and also I never sleep. I consume tons of information, and also I have a real knack for reality TV, which is perhaps why. A great segue to even say, it's probably one of the reasons why I was so amenable to perhaps work on my own reality docuseries about being a young female rabbi. Partially because I've watched the genre of reality TV really change, and it's no longer either corny game shows like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or sort of travesty shows, although you can find those on certain networks. I'm not going to say which ones because I may still want to get purchased by them. Yeah. But So a cousin of mine reached out at the beginning of the pandemic and said, I am thinking about doing a documentary about how people are worshiping during the pandemic. Now that all of these places of worship are closed and people need spirituality more than ever. And I had just officially been ordained. I had been in rabbinical school for a while. Even backtracking, though, I had been an actress for a while, but always, since the Monday after my bat mitzvah, I had been a Jewish educator. I'd been teaching people Torah. I had been teaching people Hebrew. I'd been teaching the religion in some capacity and been on the faculty of many synagogues in New York City and where I'm from in Maryland. And so my cousin said, can I interview you for this documentary? And as he started to interview me in these Zoom interviews, he was like, oh, never mind. You're really funny. Let's just do something about you. And also, he happened to tap into some of my like extravagant stories, both about New York City lifestyle, single life as a single person, dating lifestyle, what it's like to be a millennial in New York, especially in the gig economy, the types of families that I service as an on-demand rabbi, which is something very different from institutional Judaism, where you just sort of like show up at your place of worship, you become a member, and then you basically you're one of the flock. Whereas for me, I work in a very bespoke way, almost like boutique religion or like personal training, personal chef. So it's a much different experience, at least with my clientele. And a lot of New Yorkers are really looking for that. Anyway, so my cousin started interviewing me, and then he spliced together a sizzle reel, and then he shopped it around to a bunch of production companies, and eventually Reese Witherspoon's company, which we always had our eyes set on because I love their content. I love the mission of working in a female-focused production company. So Hello Sunshine optioned my show to work with myself and my cousin to develop the show further. And actually, as you know, Daniella is part of the pilot. And
you're the one who told me I was a parenting expert. I was like, I didn't know that.
Of course you are. Mom curious.
Yeah, but like I'm curious about stuff. I didn't know that I was the expert in any capacity until, I mean, I can like, I guess I am. I don't know. Anyway, I sort of am.
You are.
And you are.
Not only you are, but you, we were just saying that another young, really interesting person in your production company here is like a sponge, but you are a sponge. And one of the best parts about watching you on stage is you are the most present person in the world. And you can play like table tennis in any moment and immediately receive and throw back your serve in the right way. And you do that with all your experts on all your episodes. I mean, I haven't watched like all, I think there are 47 or like 48.
We're nearing our year anniversary.
Right. But you do that with everyone. And it's one of the joys of performing with you. It's one of the joys of being your friend. It's probably your husband's joy of being your partner. Certainly your kid's joy of being, parent-child relationship. And of course you're an expert because you've played this, intellectual table tennis with all these other experts. And so you've become one yourself, and you have written things, you have posted things, we could be each other's PR. So cancel your PR agency. Yeah. I'll do it for free. I'll do it for lattes.
Thanks, buddy. Well, I have, so Becky called me one day and was like, Hello Sunshine really wants to meet you. I told them you were like a Phoebe Buffay, parenting expert, meets like kind of woo-woo juju. And I was like, wow, I feel so seen.
And also they're like, how's the Jew who eats shrimp?
Right. And bacon, delish.
Right. So they know you as the one who knew the most, but who eats shrimp.
Yeah.
They found that very interesting.
Also clocks. You know what, guys? It turns out you think you're walking around anonymous through the world, and people are listening. Like, I'm not, like, there are no secrets here.
Right.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, I know the most and I do the least.
well, I don't know,
In
do the
Judaism.
least, but at least, you know, what you said really had impact because you can be knowledgeable and still make choices.
Right. Within Judaism, for sure, because it's an ethno-religion, and the cultural piece, the connection to the land. There are so many different facets to being Jewish, for sure. The religious piece is significant, but it's not the whole thing.
Yeah, I always tell my students that there's no such thing as Jewish jail. And if there were, then we'd all be in it because in some capacity, then, look at us. Right now, I'm wearing a leopard pantsuit.
She looks great.
Maybe it's tiger. Right. And like, you know, my mother currently hates that my Instagram handle is My Hot Rabbi. She thinks it's too salacious. And like this week when there was some like Instagram outage, my mom was like, see, that's why.
It's God. It's God.
You should really consider changing it now that Instagram has punished you. And I was like, Mom, don't kick me when I'm down. And also, you know, that's the point, right? Like, no matter what, I can be a rabbi and I can still be doing things in my own way. And I can be doing things probably a little bit, maybe not according to the absolute law, but what feels authentic to me. And that's really
love that. Wait, can you just, I know you have more to say, but I just love that. Like, what's authentic to you is holy, is sacred.
And that's really the modern way of being Jewish. And it's really our privilege as American Jews or Jews even outside of Israel and women that we get to decide what kind of Jews we want to be. You know, you can only decide once you know what decisions you have.
Right.
And so somebody who's been through as much as education as myself and you, Daniella, we both went to very strict Jewish schooling in our upbringing, and we have observant families. And so then we can make our choices with joy and love and no anger at the past, just okay, I know what I want to do.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I know how I want to dress. I know how I want to live my life. And by the way, there are going to be some weeks when you decide certain things as a part of your practice, just like you may decide this week I'm going to try and not eat dairy.
We're talking about how, you know, I have this experience all the time when I have like dear friends coming on to the show. It's like, I know you're inside out. It's like, I know everything about these people. And, you know, we talked about it with the Caitlin Greer episode where she had sort of like texted me, you know, like, these are my boundaries, which I loved. So, you know, it's like, it's always a special experience to have a best friend come on. And it's like, well, how vulnerable are we going to get?
Right. And so we had this like pre-conversation.
Yeah, we did.
2 nights ago, and we said it was going to be like 10 minutes on the phone. And it was like an hour and 4 minutes. And you were like muting me as you were like brushing your teeth and getting ready for bed. And I was just like sitting eating steamed broccoli. So overshare. So
you do eat a lot of steamed broccoli.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't eat that much, but if you're going to eat, it's going to be steamed broccoli.
Yeah. So to that effect, I was really thinking about it, Daniella. And so I take back everything we said in that hour because, or not, maybe not everything, but almost everything.
Okay, great. You take the lead, babe.
I think you know what I mean by the everything.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah,
because I really think the secret sauce in what I do and why I'm successful is that I allow myself to be vulnerable in a way that most rabbis, most clergy members do not allow themselves to be vulnerable. My clients have my phone number. My students, which I call Judents, they FaceTime me from a restaurant if they have like a Jewish question, as opposed to waiting for a meeting or even sending me an email. They feel that close to me. As I was teaching yesterday the Torah portion of the week, every week we change Torah portions so that we can get through the entire 5 books of Moses within one yearly cycle. And this week's portion is about the iconic first Jew, the Hebrew Abraham, and his wife Sarah, and how Abraham finally has a son when he's 100 years old and Sarah when she's 90. And my student says to me, "Oh, Becky, it's okay. See, you have time." Oh. And this child, who's 11, connected to that story but also to me, and understood the vulnerability of me as her teacher, that we've had those conversations that, I really want to get married and I believe in God and I really hope that one day I will be a mom and one day I'll have children, but I don't yet. And when we were talking about the story about Abraham and Sarah's longing for children, and so she interpreted that story, I know scared or water. This is my current child, but she interpreted that story to say there's still hope, there's still faith, don't lose faith.
I mean, if that's not Torah, I don't know what is, that like that a young child can connect like this ancient story to the longings of a person she cares about right next to her. That's so special.
And the connections of faith and belief and not to lose it. And it was a really special moment for me, and one that I, of course, recognized was due to the fact that I'm willing to share of myself, and that I sit on the floor with my clients, that I am available at all times of day, whenever they need me, however they need me, whether it is to ask me if an outfit looks good, right? Like sometimes I joke with like personal assistants or whatever, because I'm in this sort of like strange
echelon.
Right.
Yeah.
In New York, for all you listeners who don't know, in New York, a lot of people have personal assistants or executive assistants who sometimes help manage clients. And because I'm this concierge rabbi, I work with some very elite families in New York. So sometimes I get messages, can I wear this to a dinner? Do you think it's modest enough? And, who's texting pictures of dresses to their rabbi? It's something really special.
Yeah.
And likewise, when I go through a breakup, I'll share of myself, of my heartache. I'll share what prayers are getting me through it. I'll share that I need to come for Shabbat dinner because I need extra community. I'll share if my parents are sick and I need extra prayers, or if somebody in my family otherwise is going through a tough time. So much of religion these days is like sitting in any sort of performance. If you think about, especially since you're an actress, Daniella, and you just did this beautiful play, but you did it in the round, right?
There were two sides.
Two sides.
Yeah.
Okay, but most plays that you do is classic proscenium stage seating, which basically means the stage is over here and the seats are in front of the stage, and like most Broadway theaters, except for one Broadway theater, Circle in the Square, and everybody's just sitting very passively. And the clergy is just performing God for you. And it makes people feel like, okay, I go to this place of worship, whether it's, and these are, of course, Judeo-Christian classic places of worship. I'm not speaking about more Eastern places of worship. But this is, pretty common in America, and especially in American Jewry. The majority of American Jews sit passively when they worship. And so to be able to instead be active in some way and not just have people watch me do, but instead engage them, is sort of a difference in my offering.
Yeah, and in your art, I mean, you were trained as an actress and as a producer at NYU. I went to school with you. Becky likes to remind me that I'm a year older than her, and I just like to say, yeah, I'm a year older than you. Yeah.
I wasn't going to bring it up, but you did. So
it's fine.
It happened.
So I remember going into that pitch shoot with you, and you were so vulnerable. You would like listed out all the characteristics, the qualities you want to find in a man, and how you keep it in your
right.
And you cried, and it was so beautiful, because I do think like so much of what we're lacking in the world is certainly community, as you talk about, but really knowing each other, really knowing that like we don't need to be perfect to be a rabbi. We don't have to have it all together to be a rabbi. We can have longings just like everybody else, just like Sarah in the Bible, to be a spiritually connected person, to be a mentor.
Right.
Right. Like I can, for me, right? Like I can mess up with my kids.
Right.
And I can, at home or in my professional life, I can mess up and still sit here in my seat as this podcast host and still be a mentor of sorts and still extend my hand and say, I'm just human.
Right.
I'm just human. I cry just like you. I rage just like you. All of that.
Yeah, it's really one of the gifts of Judaism is to remind us that we fail, that we err all the time. And that's why we get a Yom Kippur built in every single year to really atone communally for every possible sin we could have done, because as a community, everybody's done something to aggregate to all of those confessions. And at the end of our lives, we're also encouraged to either have clergy make a confession for us or do it ourselves, because we're going to be guilty of things. That's built into Judaism. And in fact, even in our daily worship, we say sorry. It's in our daily Amidah and the 18 blessings of Shemona Esrei. It's this sort of like misconception of like purity that I'm not sure exactly where it came from. We can save that for another, follow-up podcast of why all religious leaders must be perfect.
Well, we just have such a discomfort with mess. I mean, I think it's partially why for so long men have been leaders. Like they're so predictable every day, 24 hours a day. Like they restart the cycle, where women, restart the cycle every moon. We bleed. That was a problem for a long time for, I was raised modern Orthodox. Part of the reason why I wasn't allowed to touch the Torah was because I bleed. That's problematic because it's messy, because it's yucky. I mean, why do I bleed? Because I have the potential to bear life, to literally populate this earth. Mm-hmm. So, I think there are a lot of reasons why we as a collective have just been so sterilized, Mm-hmm. But to get messy, if I may, one of the things that actually you took off the table that we're going to put back on the table in that conversation was, I was like, we have this divide. We have this bizarro divide between women who have children and women who don't yet, or might not be interested, or might not be able to. And it's just like, we're really so, and it's something that I can open up with you about because you're my dearest friend. My heart is like so wide open. I really find that we are cutting ourselves off from our collective power by being sort of, well, I don't know what it is. And maybe it is because I have kids. So I'm going to pass it to you and to Laura, who's also, team woman with no kids. It's like, what's happening here that we can't really talk about it?
Well, okay, so I'm just getting to know Laura, so I'm not going to speak for Laura. I'm going to speak for myself and my experience.
Yeah.
And so Laura, you're...
Don't worry, I'll chime in.
Okay, so...
Well, Ashley's here too, so...
Okay.
So you're in good company.
Ashley's too young you're too young to even have to worry about this stuff.
Or care.
So here's how I'll address it. So inertia is the strongest force. People are resistant to change, and that includes change in any sort of dynamic. And so when one person changes and another person doesn't in a friendship dynamic, it makes the other person feel left behind. Compound that with many people in their lives making that life cycle, life change, and that person not having had that life change, meaning getting married and having children. not only are they resistant to their friends around them changing because people just don't like change, but it becomes a judgment that people inflict on themselves. It becomes a point of pain and confidence where they feel, what is it about me that I'm unable to keep up with some of my peers in what feels like a social timing and train, a locomotive that people seem on board and I can't get on board in the same timing. I've watched several of my friends get on that board, get on all aboard, right? And it's like, oh, crud, I don't have the ticket. And there are no single seats. And even when people think there are single seats on the train, there aren't single seats because everything is about kids' activities and the new people who are on the train that you meet. And it's okay that you're meeting on that train that you're all aboard, you just got on. There are new couples and there are new kids and there are new, and your life is changing. Meaning, and you, I mean, people in your shoes of having children, young children, now joining, taught gymnastics and taught ballet, right? And Saturday mornings are no longer, I mean, I just went to synagogue, but like I hear people go to brunch. I hear brunch is a thing, so like Saturday mornings are no longer about girlfriends brunches or even double dates, but he's hot from the lights. He's wearing a fur coat. Or he just wants to snuggle with you. So I think that is part of the source of pain. It's not an intentional exclusion, but it feels exclusionary, and also we can't help but judge ourselves. Why didn't we get a ticket? Why didn't anybody ask us to get on board with them?
Right.
I see Laura nodding. I don't know if she's on camera.
No, she's on mic, though.
I'm not on camera. I am on mic. I definitely think that is most people's experience, like on our side of the fence. Mine is slightly different.
I hate the fence.
I've been with my husband since I am 18 years old. People very much expect me to have children. We get along famously. We run this company together. I don't have any interest. And I have seen many people do a bad job at parenting because they felt like it was what they were supposed to do and not what they truly wanted to do. I only do things that are a full body yes, and until this is a full body yes, and if it never is, then it never is. I also am insanely passionate about my work and my career, and the level of success that I am trying to reach is, I'm in a women in business group and someone said it, so I'm gonna say it. She goes, the type of success that we're trying for is the top 1%. It's nobody, her husband is a world famous touring musician. And she's like, people aren't doing this. This is not what people are doing. I want to go work with Elton John. Most people are not working with Elton John.
That's right.
So that has to take priority. I don't even have the space in my body, in my mind, in my heart.
In your calendar.
So I'll just counter it with yesterday I was talking with my household engineer. Some people would call them a housekeeper.
Engineer?
Yeah, she engineers my organization, my cleaning.
Can I have her number? I have a really hard time finding someone like an engineer. Okay, but if she's an engineer.
Yeah, no, I mean, she is just a really amazing housekeeper and lovely lady. I just think she deserves the title. She calls herself a housekeeper. Anyways.
I would like her number.
Okay, so she's wonderful. And we were talking about somebody that we both know, and she said, why does she only have one child? And I said, I think it's partially a money issue. And she said, Becky, where I'm from, nobody has money, and everybody has so many babies. And in the same way, people can have careers, and they can have babies, and they can make it work, right? It's just your choice, right? it's your choice, your body, your choice. You do what you want.
100%.
And I'm a firm believer of that. I'm a believer of men. They choose to have children whenever they want. I was matched. Let me tell you this story really quick. Okay, so I get a call from a matchmaker who knows me from shul, who knows me from synagogue. I don't think I told you this story. She knows me since I was like 20. I was a professional Torah reader, so I used to get $500 for reading Torah once a week when there weren't enough Torah readers. Like there was no bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah at the synagogue. Anyway, so she met me. She had me like on her roster. She calls me and she's like, I have the perfect guy for you. Will you meet him? And I was like, okay, a matchmaker. Like this sounds too good to be true. She's like, you know, she's a millionaire matchmaker type. Da 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 da. Okay, whatever. Great. Set up the date. He texts me before and he's like, I'm the guy in the blue sweater. And I like show up and I'm like, where's the guy in the blue sweater? Like I see a very old man in the blue sweater and I'm like, I'm like, what?
Oh no. How old is he?
He was almost 60.
Oh no.
Now that is,
no.
That is not appropriate. And I had told her before, like, I just want to make sure whoever this is, it's age appropriate because I'm in my 30s. Like, I'm a rabbi. I don't need anybody's money. Like, let's not get it twisted. That's not a good look, right? I'm not going out with somebody for money. I'm not going out with I support myself. Thank you very much.
Some people like older men. I just want to put that out there.
That's a whole other story. Anyways,
I don't know who those people are.
He happens to tell me that he's frozen his sperm, so not to worry, that we could have children. Like he tells me all these things. By the way, I really tried to split the bill. He would not let me split it because I knew I had no intention of seeing him again. He wouldn't let me split it. But I didn't want him to think I was, I ordered an expensive tequila. I fully expected to pay for it, but anyways, the point is this man chose to not have children until he's 60, right? That was his choice. Fine. Good for him. And Laura, if you choose to not have children ever, if you choose to have children when you're 40 and you somehow, get it done, good for you. Nobody or less people are going to comment on his choice. And I bet less people commented on his choice at 27 about whether or not he was having children. And so it's total. I just kept thinking to myself, like, what? I have so much pressure and I'm in my 30s and this guy is 60 and I'm the chick he gets.
Well, I'm so glad that you had that experience because it was what a eye-opening experience where you're like, oh my gosh. There's this book called Gabor Mate wrote a book called The Myth of Normal. Like, so it's normal for him to not have a kid until he's 60 and, wait to be a sugar daddy or whatever was happening there. And somehow it's normal to pressure you to get out of my womb.
Yeah. And also like, it's such a weird place. And I said to the matchmaker, I also said, I don't even know what pocket of our conversation this fits in, but I said, if you find a woman who is my age, who wants this person, she wants him for the wrong reasons. He should not want somebody my age, or he's getting her for those reasons. And nobody wants that. And she was like, okay, so just let me know if you have any friends who you think would be good for him. Like it just went right over her head. And I was like, I have a client who's 50 and divorced that I could think of. And she was like, not interested. And I was like, all right, I see you. I see you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like, meanwhile, I know all these wonderful women who married somebody, they had children with them, and it worked for the time that they had children. And, I believe that sometimes you can be in love for a purpose, like having children, and then people fall out of love, or the reasons they fell in love no longer apply because of circumstance that are really real. And so, relationships come to an end. But then what? Should people be alone once they're in their late 40s and 50s? No, of course not. And while age is just a number, things are appropriate.
Yeah.
And I, like if we want the respect as women, if we want, if we demand equal rights and if we demand equality, we also have to like answer to morality and values too. We can't be talking out of two sides of our mouths. And as somebody who stands obviously for values, because I am teaching the Bible, right? I am like going from house to house teaching morals and ethics. Like I could barely even let somebody pay for my, dinner and feel as though I was using them for, so anyways, just like part of the types of things you may or may not see on a docuseries that would follow me and the work I do and Daniella and the complication of being a young single girl in New York who happens to also have this like complicated part of her being a rabbi.
The rabbi, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned that the impulse to create this show sort of came to you in 2018.
Yeah. So, really, I was signing up for some parts of my rabbinical schooling, and I was sitting inside a very liberal synagogue in New York on October 27th, 2018, and that's when the Tree of Life synagogue massacre happened. And I just remember, Jews don't typically look at their phones while they're in a religious service. And so when I got out of the synagogue, I had all these alerts popping up all over the place. And that there had been a shooting. And also my mom, sorry, my voice is getting a little shaky. I'm just remembering the day. My mom is like crazy about the news because my mom was a journalist. My mom is in general a little alarmist. So my mom wanted to know where I was. Was I okay? She knew I had a bat mitzvah that day and that I was in that very liberal synagogue. And the Tree of Life synagogue was targeted specifically because it was also a liberal synagogue. And to know, yes, of course, that happened in Pittsburgh, but it could have very well happened in any synagogue with not a lot of security. And the synagogue I had happened to be in didn't have any security outside, which is now not the case, but it was then.
And it's also pretty rare. I mean, synagogues usually have security. Jewish preschools have security.
But not even the Tree of Life massacre was something that really change things. But so the next Sunday, I was really in shock that whole day because I had this amazing bat mitzvah experience in the morning, this massacre in the evening, and then I had to go to the party that night. And I felt very strange about the party. And then I had a terrible date after the party that started at 11 o'clock. And the guy lived, no joke, in a tenement. And I showed up at the date at 11 at a bar around the corner from his tenement. And the whole time I was wearing a jumpsuit because I had been at the party before. This is a very quick story. And I'd been in a jumpsuit because it was sequins, whatever, because I'd been in this party. And I really had to pee. And I was doing the like pee dance where like, and he was like, oh, why don't you need to pee? Why don't you just go pee? And I was like, we're at a dive bar in the East Village. Like, I can't pee here. I have to take off all my clothes. Mm-hmm. Like, I can't, I'm in a jumpsuit. He was like, well, do you want to go to my apartment? It's like around the corner. And I was like, okay, you work in tech. We're in the Lower East Side. Chances are it's like one of the nice buildings. Fine. I really have to pee. Like, I haven't peed the whole day. This has been a hard day. I don't even know you, but I'm going to your apartment. We show up to this place. It's disgusting. And he's like, 6th floor. I'm like, walk up? Oh, crud. So like start walking up the stairs. I'm wearing like 5-inch heels. I have to pee. I'm carrying like 7 pounds of pee with me. And I get to his apartment. He's like showing me his kitchen. I'm like, so where's the bathroom? He was like, in the hallway. I'm like, what do you mean in the hallway? He was like, yeah, there's one for the floor. I was like, you live in a tenement? And I was like, I can't. Scroll, Uber. And I took an Uber and I left and I went home. So like, it was the worst day. And then my first lesson on Sunday morning, October 28th, was for a kid whose bar mitzvah was the next week. And he told me he wanted to cancel his bar mitzvah because he was too afraid that a gunman would come and that he couldn't risk his whole family dying for his bar mitzvah. And instead of practicing like our last practice for his bar mitzvah, instead, I had to reassure him that you don't have to run and be afraid. And in fact, we're going to do everything to protect you. And the safest place to ever be is synagogue for a Jew. And be proud of who you are. And we're not martyrs. But if you were to ever pass away with God's name on your tongue, don't worry, you are going straight to heaven. Don't you worry, my friend. And you will have the best time in heaven. And you'll be with all your family too, past and present. And I mean, that sweet boy, obviously he had his gorgeous bar mitzvah the next week and it was great. But that moment of seeing that like his bar mitzvah hung in the balance because of anti-Semitism, that somebody was going to scare an entire child from taking his place among his people, I knew, yes, I have to finish being a rabbi. And I had my own conflicts about it. I wasn't even convinced as a female that I even should be a rabbi. Growing up, I didn't have any female rabbis as examples. And
just to get clarity for non-Jewish listeners, is it allowed? Because I'm Catholic, it is not allowed. We don't.
Still it's not allowed.
Which my mom thinks is like a reason that things are so messed up.
So there are many sects, I hate that word, sects of Judaism. And so being a female rabbi is totally allowed in the Reconstructionist, Reform, and conservative movements. In the Orthodox movement, it's up for debate. The Orthodox movement has recently started one program in New York where they say they ordain female rabbis, but those rabbis are not really able to do much. And those female rabbis are not accepted in Israel. Female rabbis are not accepted in Israel unless it's by the Reform movement.
But you were saying that it was that experience that led you to finishing your rabbinical training,
right?
And
so when my cousin approached me and basically was like, "So we're going to do a show on you," and I didn't realize, come here, sweetie. I didn't realize how involved doing this like reality docuseries was going to be. I basically just thought, I was just going to be like the next big rabbi. Mm-hmm. And when I realized it was work, or I realized, eventually some of this was going to actually really expose a big part of me and my life, I said to my cousin, I don't need to get famous. I don't care. What I want out of this is for people to have a clearer perception of the way modern Jewish people and Jewish women practice. And I want good news for the Jews. We have enough bad news for the Jews, right? Obviously, this fall in 2022, we've had a lot of issues with increased anti-Semitism, and it's just been going up and up and up. I mean, every single year, the FBI posts that we are the largest religious group that is the subject of hate crimes. And we are still only 2% of the United States population, 0.5% of the world population. I just want to help be part of the solution to help show that Jewish people are great. And we're not the best. We're not superior. I believe we are excellent.
Not the best, not the worst people.
Right.
Like how we said in the very beginning of this conversation, like we don't have to be perfect to be worthy. We don't have to be perfect.
No one is. And everyone, no matter what you are, you are worthy of life. You are worthy of freedom. You are worthy of respect. So my dog is panting. I have to go juder.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like, 3:00 in the afternoon. I'm going to be judering until 9:45 tonight. I did bring sweatpants so that I could change.
Oh, well, you look great and comfy at the same time.
Yeah, but
very exciting.
and I have dog food in my bag, because that's like the life of a single dog mom, Juder to the stars. I have basically my entire life in my bag. And so I do have to go get Jewish somewhere else, Daniela.
Yeah, well, I just have to say that I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for your vulnerability and for your life's work and for your friendship and for your personhood. I'm so truly grateful for how well behaved your dog is.
I mean, he probably is as hot as us. I mean, you're wearing like vinyl. I'm wearing silk / poly. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'm schwitzing.
Well, you've been bearing your soul, so I appreciate it.
I feel like I totally monopolize the time. That might be the point of these things.
That's exactly the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also had my blood taken today, so this is like this is definitely a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniella, and I love you.
Oh, where can we keep in touch with you, my hot rabbi?
Well, you can hopefully find me on some streaming network pretty soon. So like, oh, okay. You can find Scout on @BarkMitzvahTutor on Instagram. You can find me at Hot Rabbi. Oh, excuse me. You can find me at My Hot Rabbi. You can find me on my website, RebeccaKeren.com, and there's like a slew of links there. And hopefully I'll be releasing a book pretty soon about what it's like being a rabbi to some of New York's very exclusive private families, and having the cutest little dog along the way. Thanks, Daniella, for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I love you so much.
Love you too.
Thank you, as always, for listening to the Mom Curious podcast. My name is Daniella Rabbani. I am your host, and I would love to continue this conversation at Daniella Rabbani on Instagram. And if you'd be so kind to rate and review, share this podcast, I would be just really grateful. Catch you next time, every Tuesday on the Mom Curious podcast, produced by Hoff Studios. You can find them at Hoff Studios on Instagram as well. All right, have a great day.